We are on, right?
We're live.
Yeah, nice. Hi, everyone, and a big welcome to this kickoff of this launch week on pump.science. And before we start, I just want to highlight that everything we say here and connected to this event, it's not medical advice or financial advice. It's only for educational purposes only. So always consult professionals in the areas because things can go wrong. And please take it seriously. Yes, when it comes to this event today, then we are going to do a very exciting launch here on pump.science. We are going to launch a longevity intervention called partial reprogramming. It's a very interesting intervention, which is about reversing cellular age. And we have some researchers here who will talk about what partial reprogramming is. And they will also talk about mTOR inhibition and why it may be also interesting to combine it. We will also get a presentation about what pump.science is and a roundtable talk about why it is interesting to combine longevity research with DSI. And later in this event, we will have a presentation from Nathan Chang about the mission around solving aging and a potential roadmap of solving it. And some words about me. I'm Christer, the founder of the rapamycin longevity lab. And our focus is to take mTOR inhibitors to the next level. And this we are doing by engineering mTOR inhibitor-based combinational therapies for longevity. And our mission is to explore the opportunities to push the boundaries of human longevity, and by that come closer to the state of radical life extension. Today we will have many different great speakers on this event, and interesting agenda points. And I think we'll start the live stream by launching this partial reprogramming on pump.science so that you guys see how easy it is to start things here. Let's share the screen.
All right, whose screen should I bring up? Here-ish?
Yes.
Okay,
Please.
let's do it.
So here you see the start page of pump.science, and in the bottom you see the different interventions that has been launched on pump.science. I think it's more than 100 different interventions that has been launched, and you see also the different stage the research is at. If we scroll to the top of this page, we have the launch button here, and if we click that one, then we come to this next page, and here we choose the compound launch.
Maybe just as a brief side note, as you can see, we're enabling people to start launching products. Products are commercial, inhuman, supplements, or, basically anything people can buy commercially. And we're allowing people to tokenize those as well. So some are coming soon. But that has in order to launch a product, you have to be whitelisted. So if you are selling a, health or wellness longevity product, and you would like to launch it with us, hit us up. We can get you on the white list.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's a great reminder too. So what you guys are watching here, for people who aren't familiar, is actually the launch of a new compound on Pump Science. So Krister and team are taking us through the flow, and yeah, you'll be sitting sidecar in the launch here, which is way cool.
Yeah, so we are doing history here now because no one has launched partial reprogramming token in the DSI space, what we know about. So yeah, this is a big day here. So yeah, let's click next button here. And this is the second page in the process of the launch. And here we add the token name, the compounds we start with.
Yeah, so what Chris is doing here is he's typing in the kind of colloquial names for the compounds. On the back end, we have like an AI agent that goes and grabs all of the kind of structured data about a compound, its smiles, its CAS number, a link from a supplier, etc. So basically all the structured data. It also brings, like, if the compound exists, it'll bring up images as well. You don't see any of this. All of this is kind of abstracted behind the scenes, but that's what's going on.
And here we give the token a name. And the name we have chosen, or the reprogramming lab who we are partnering with around this launch, they came with the idea to call the token T-Rex. So we are increasing the dinosaur space on Pump Science because, yeah, currently we have one successful dinosaur on Pump Science, and that is Raptor. So now that Raptor has a nice friend. Hopefully they will be good friends here, but let's see. And yeah, here we also give a description to the token. It's always good to explain a little bit what the token, the intervention is about. And then we upload the image. Here we have our T-Rex, a little bit futuristic reprogramming T-Rex. The product link here, that one we don't need to add in this step, so that one we jump over. But it's possible, for example, if you have some type of shop or something connected to it, then you can add that link there. The thing here, we can launch the token directly, or we can schedule the token. And in this demonstration, we will launch the token directly. And we are also available, because we are the dev team here, we are able to buy some tokens here. We will scroll down. Then we can add there we add the reprogramming lab Twitter handle. Do you have that one? Perfect. And the Telegram handle can be added later on. So let's click next here. So, and this is the review page. Everything looks good, I think. Let's scroll down here.
This graphic is pretty sick, you guys. This T-Rex.
It's the reprogramming lab people who have created it. It's super talented people over there. So yeah.
Way cool. We're about to have 2 apex predators in the arena.
And then you just check mark this, and then we are ready to go. And Benji, what happens now? It's failed to upload the image. Okay. Did we have the wrong image size or something?
Let's see.
Oh.
I think Benji just read. Can you hear us, Benji?
Yes.
There he is. Okay. It says fail to upload image.
Interesting.
Okay.
Too big, maybe the image, the size or something?
Let me just make a quick check here. I think we have the right image size.
Is it too big?
Is it too big?
Yeah, I think we have like a 4 megabyte max or something.
Let me see here if we can quickly convert it. Maybe meanwhile I convert the picture. You can say some words about pump science, Benji.
Yeah, you
What
got
pump
it.
science is.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we started Pump Science to make it very easy to launch a longevity experiment. You know, it's incredibly difficult in order to, piece together all the labs, to have contracts set up with them where you can get a good deal, to be able to ingest their data and analyze it in a way where you can actually interpret the results, is pretty difficult. And so, we wanted to make that easier for scientists worldwide to be able to submit their best ideas and get the funding for it, and also the, basically the operational and executionary support to run longevity experiments. And so that's kind of what you're seeing here. And, we're trying to make it as easy to submit a longevity experiment as it is to, fill out, the few buttons that Chris is doing right now that will hopefully work for him in a second. But yeah, that was like the original thinking. And yeah, we've, as Chris just said, we've had like over 100 compounds that have been launched. I can pull up the exact numbers on how many experiments we've launched, but it's something like 80 C. elegans experiments, almost 40 fly experiments, and pushing 20 mouse experiments. So through the throughput's getting there. Of course, we want to scale this much more and have it go properly viral. But we are getting some of the initial validation points on the board, which is super exciting. And I think some of the coolest signals are the degree of scientists that we have in the room with us right now that are actually using the system. So to me, that's definitely the most exciting kind of accomplishment. It's just the quality of the people that are using it.
Girish, can you test the new image that I sent to you? And yeah, Gillian and Benji, you are the two founders behind Pump Science, and you said. Can you talk a little bit about what compounds are the top hits currently?
I wonder which are the top performers.
Funny you should ask.
Funny you should ask. They were submitted by incredible scientists. I don't know how their genius came up with these compound ideas. But yeah, so the top performer right now of any compound tested is omipalisib, which was originally developed by GSK. I think there's probably some other people that are better suited to talk about the history behind it, but it's a dual mTOR PIK3 inhibitor, and it has increased the lifespan of the worms by like 37.1%, which is super significant. What is really interesting is the second place was just crowned on Friday, which was methylene blue, which is really interesting. We were certainly surprised by that. We were not expecting that high of a signal for methylene blue. I think there's probably like maybe a combination of reasons why it happened. I think we're still trying to investigate. But yeah, it's that was a really, really surprising result, frankly, especially because of how controversial methylene blue is.
Yeah, and for people who aren't familiar with Pump Science, what we have is a research protocol where the compounds go through different types of animal models and hopefully into humans, but they go through C. elegans, flies, and into mice. And at each stage, what Benji's referring to is a king of the pill, which king of the pill is the top scientific compound that per extended lifespan in the animal models. So what's really cool is I remember the moment that omipalisib was crowned king of the pill in worms, and there was certainly a celebration. But right after that, the question was, what is going to dethrone omipalisib? So by design, there is this quest to constantly dethrone the king, to find the next best thing that extends lifespan in each animal model. So it was a really cool moment to see that compound take the crown. But then all of a sudden, there is a hunter mentality where people are trying to come for the king to come up with the next best idea to scientifically dethrone that compound. So yeah, we shall see if maybe the one launching today will do it.
I have a question. Sorry. To me, it's like, could you explain what are the benefits for the token holder if you are in the king of the pill?
Absolutely. So we wanted to make a game out of discovering the top performing compounds, right? Like we wanted that to be the objective, kind of as Paras is alluding to. So, you can submit any compound, but we wanted to kind of align the objectives of the players with, extending lifespan in the animals. So if your compound gets king of the pill, meaning it extends the lifespan of that animal the most, then you get basically airdrops of all future tokens launched on the platform. So 5% of the token supply of every compound that's launched on the launch pad is reserved for the king of the pill token holders. So when we launch this token right now, T-Rex, 5% of it will get split among the king of the pill token holders. So right now the kings of the pill are omipalisib in the worms and urolithin A in the flies. And so 2.5 million tokens will go to each of the urolithin A holders and the omipalisib holders. And if ever those compounds are dethroned, then the new king of the pill token holders would get them. So that keeps people incentivized to find the next king of the pill, because it can be dethroned at any moment.
Okay. No, this means that, for instance, now that you are going to launch the partial reprogramming, if this become the king of the pill in some point, all the people that buy this token, the holders, then they will have benefits while it's the king of the pill, right? In any organism.
Yes, but not financial advice.
No, this is very attractive. It's very attractive now because we are
Totally.
competing and you want the best intervention to have.
So that's kind of like the closed system incentive, but the open system incentive is if ever, we're to commercialize, or ever the team here is to commercialize the partial reprogramming cocktail as a commercial product, then, they could reward the token holders in the form of, revenue going to buybacks and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question for you. A softer benefit, but and more a scientific accolade. What's the top performing compound on any testing platform, like NIA, and like what was that, and how did it perform?
It's a great question. Maybe Girish knows the answer to that question. Girish, do you know what the highest lifespan ever, increase ever recorded on C. elegans is from like a credible lab, not like a random lab in the middle of Siberia?
Yeah, that's a good question. With genetic manipulation,
No, maybe with chemical
with
manipulation.
chemical interventions. Yeah, I think 1.5x, somewhere around there, and that was through manipulation of insulin signaling pathways. So I think we have a long.
So our goal here is to top that.
Gotcha. So we need some
Definitely.
HGH or something.
Yeah, Girish is looking at the launch here, and but I think if we also look at genetic inhibition, I think it's almost 10x lifespan. But the thing, if we go back to omipalisib, that compound was discovered by rapamycin longevity lab last year. And it mimics a little bit, or it's a little bit closer to the insulin and IGF pathway inhibition that was discovered. I think it was a little bit more than 20 years ago by the researcher Cynthia Kenya. And she doubled the lifespan of worms. So it's interesting that, we are taking steps closer to find compounds that can mimic these genetic effects here. So, but while we look in the background here, maybe we can go to the next step around the round table talk here. Sorry, guys, about the problems with the launch, but things happen, but we will solve it somehow. If we look, the round table here is going to talk a little bit about the interesting thing of combining longevity research and DSI, and Benji, Gillian, Aaron from a Molecule, and also Jörg from the DSI news space are here to discuss a little bit about this. If we start with Aaron here, why you are working in the initiative Molecule here. What opportunities do you see when DSI and longevity research are coming closer?
I mean, it's fundamentally a greater degree of alignment between what token holders and the general public wants, and what researchers are enabled to do. I mean, you look at the traditional system; it is a model of sick care. It's like legacy gated. I mean, it's a mystery to me why there is so much interest in the world in longevity, and the traditional system hasn't advanced it along. That that yet again is because of a vast degree of centralization that effectively occurs there, and only certain interests effectively being met. But I mean, it's undeniable that like longevity is like one of the biggest trends to be playing out globally. It'll reshape demographics, economies, and the way that the world fundamentally operates. But it still just doesn't have a broader market structure and the incentive system to effectively bring it along. And I mean, the FDA isn't set up to approve a longevity drug effectively at all. I mean, you look at we all self-experiment. We all have certain types of data that we effectively report. And I was having this discussion with someone else in Molecule today. I was like, what do you end up spending most of your money on outside of just like rent and these sorts of things? And it is like supplements, peptides, and a variety of other things. And we want to see the data. We want to know legitimately how this effectively functions. And I think this is the role of DSI. This is to really answer those burning questions and help create the market availability.
Yeah, interesting. And you are in the design news space and exploring what's happening. What's your view on the topic? Jörg?
Oh, I didn't. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I thought you were somebody else. Sorry. I think a couple things. Like, first of all, I think let me just take a time out. Anybody that's watching this, make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the share, make sure you comment. Give everybody here some support. There's some great talk, great conversations. But at the end of the day, what is everyone trying to do here? We're trying to break this wall, break through this bubble that we're also in, but also at the same time, disrupt the $3-4 trillion industry out there. And I think, shout out to everybody that's taking the time right now to be able to not only watch this, but also participate. I think that just means so much, especially for this industry. So shout out to everybody that's here. Shout out to Krister and Ben and Jillian and Grish for putting together this. I think these are the type of events that are very much needed to help understand, have the conversations back and forth of what we are doing, why we are doing, asking the questions, just like someone else before was like, wait, so what is it that you're actually doing? And making people understand why we're using tokens, financial instruments, to be able to push the space forward, right? I think a lot of times tokens can be something that are scary, something that could be used in our industry that can be overpowering or not know how to understand it. But essentially what we're trying to do is find funding, find different ways of funding, and really put the power in the people, right? Let the people talk. Let the people use where they believe funding should be applied to, especially in a world where science, we know, is behind some of the massive paywalls that are really, really hard to overcome. So DeSci here is, again, coming an emerging market, disrupting a $4 trillion market industry that's out there that, man, for those, I'm an American, I live in the United States, and I'll tell you, man, talk about like the big players in this space. It's all about their money. It's all about the return of investment. It comes down to, again, whatever product they put out, they want to know what the ROI is. It's gone from, hey, let's actually find certain cures or certain treatments or certain things. It's come down to, hey, what's the return on investment? And that makes sense. Let's make sure we apply more research and science and, hey, products that could bring in more. So I think it's really, really cool for, again, all of us here to be able to say, hey, we're looking for different ways of, if it's anti-aging, if it's, hey, how do we live longer? Hey, any of the thoughts that have gone into what kind of compounds, products we could put on pump.science, I think that's truly, truly the coolest thing here. So sorry, I just wanted to kind of give you guys that.
Great. And
sorry, I just want to jam on that point. One thing. Sorry for interrupting.
No.
That on that return on investment, it really is, it's based around high pricing power. This has been subject to like a series of discussions effectively recently in the political sphere. High pricing power is really dictated around when one is really, really ill, life-threatening conditions and things like that. And so, that's the point that you have to get to in order to have a drug really developed for you. So, we need to really empower a system that can help you not get to that point where you're in a hospital bed, they're just sort of jammed up with a life-threatening disease. It happens, but there really needs to be an ecosystem that advances scientific R&D so that we don't have to fall into that economic trap.
Well, and I think to your point, Aaron, the advancing scientific R&D, you need so many shots on goal to have a breakthrough. And so what I think is really cool about what Pump Science enables is a lot of ideas to go through this system. For me, I sat in the big pharma world for a bit, and you really realize there's, based on things coming down the pipeline, they have certain bets, but when you see something fail and when you see it get all the way to the end or all the way to clinical trials, and then the data doesn't play out, you really need a lot more shots on goal to actually get something to consumers. What I think is cool here is it's a space that big pharma isn't interested in yet per se. And so we can do a lot of that de-risking here and really invite people in with ideas, and anyone can have an idea. And as you'll see, it's a few clicks of a button to launch an experiment in a real lab that is doing real science. And so, yeah, anyone with an idea can show up, click a few buttons, and see their idea hopefully go into actual experiments. So, to your point, the point that you made, I have spent a lot of money on supplements, and when you think about all the stuff that you're taking, you should, as a consumer, know if it works. And today you don't really have a great way to find out if something that you're taking actually works. And so now if you, as a user, you don't even have to be a scientist or someone with a scientific background. If there's something that you're interested in or you've heard a lot about, you could come to the platform, launch an idea, and if we can get it, we will test it. And you can find out if it extends lifespan. So yeah, I think it's really cool to just open up the idea pipeline to really anyone and do that de-risking in a space where, you know, big pharma isn't playing heavy today because to Aaron's point, they, you know, you make a lot of money when you're sick. So we're trying to keep people from, you know, being sick and live longer, healthier lives.
Where do you think this space will be in like 2-3 years? Because the movement is growing quite fast now. Any thoughts?
Yeah, what I think is really cool is based on how, at least on the pump science side and in the longevity research that we're doing a lot of parallel pathing, which if you get a lot of funding for a compound, you can initiate worm, fly, and mouse studies if you get all of the funding for the research. And so, you know, it's up to the person who submits the idea if they want to wait for the results to see, you know, if there's additional dosing information as they get later down the pipeline. But what is cool is you know, it's all about accelerating science. And so to me, you know, I would love to be sitting a couple years from now having multiple compounds that have shown outstanding results. I would actually love to dethrone the one that Girish said, extended lifespan, I think 170%. But yeah, that came from a group of decentralized people with an idea and science that was done in the lab. So I see a few years from now, I don't see any reason why we couldn't be there. And if anything, I think we'll get there faster than that because you can parallel path a lot of the science that's happening if you get enough funding. So yeah, I would love to have not only like a compound, but products that people are actually able to get and studies that people are able to enroll in to continue to advance the science and hopefully in humans.
Cool.
That's my take though. What do you guys think?
Aaron, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a curveball out with this one, but this is a larger base premonition. I think you're going to see some degree of re-engineering the regulatory landscapes around this. It's too much of an economic trend for broader-based territories to effectively ignore. You know, there's medical tourism plays that are starting to pop up across a variety of places, whether it be, you know, like Thailand, Turkey, UAE, a variety of other places, US states now that are effectively talking about it, because what other economic levers do they have to pull to actually, you know, engineer economic growth? And it's what people want. It's like now politically uncontentious to basically support an idea like this. And I think that puts more pressure on broader-based health regulators to sort of come around to effectively approving these product-based ideas and not making it just refined to treating effectively a disease. So that's sort of like my big bet that will probably happen over the next few years. And as people that are well positioned with it, that have a well-structured R&D ecosystem, a really strong understanding of aging biology and the relative compounds and just the modalities that support that will really win in this sort of like this new landscape.
Yeah, I think I'll add like a completely different perspective and maybe like a zoom out real quick for a second, right? If you look at 2013 and Bitcoin and a lot of the banks were just saying fake internet money, you know, it's 2017 and a lot of banks were like, what is this fake internet money? Why is it starting to pick up? It's 2025 today, and every single bank offers a crypto desk. Every single bank offers crypto in America, right? And so you look at how that started. It started slowly disrupting a market, started slowly, you know, telling it's the truth about the finance market and starting to say, hey, why transparency matters. And again, why payment rails matter and why is it such a finance system that's been hundreds of years, never been touched or never been improved. You know, you look at the financial system in the United States, it's probably one of the oldest, and it's, again, you know, still on its very core of its 100 years of where it began. Nothing's been shown to improve. So I think that when you start looking at that and you say, can this happen in DeSci? But you take a time out and you just say, whoa, that happened in finance. That's happened in DeFi. Look at the DeFi that's happening right now, RWAs and DePIN. And then you look at science and you look at just itself and you say, man, this has to be the next industry. If you just look at it and just say, and you talk about what we've talked about here for the past 30 minutes and understand that like the paywalls, you understand the funding and you understand all these issues. A lot of what happened in DeFi took 10 years to get there. I think we are going to superpower, or we're going to be on a lot faster train than DeFi was, because again, science, if you just look at it and understand it, it makes complete sense. It just makes sense. And I think that for us, it's just understanding how do we make sure that this time around, like for at least for science, we play with the big players. We bring the awareness to everybody. We bring the small players to the big players, and we say why this matters, and we show them why it matters. And once we are able to showcase that, that's when the R&D departments of these big names, at these big, are be like, okay, what is this blockchain stuff? What is this decentralized science stuff? And I think that's the opportunity that we are all kind of seeking also.
Yeah. Do you want to know why it'll win? Because you just have to look at science as like a physics problem. There's some sort of probability of success that you make a discovery, and that discovery has an expected value of like over $1 billion, right? And the more you can reduce friction to testing out those discoveries, right? If you think about it literally as like a coefficient of friction, where the grant system we all know is way too high, right? The VC system is just like way too high, right? Too much friction applied to getting the funding necessary to make that breakthrough. Here it's so low because it's just like a few button clicks that over time, as you multiply that over and over and you reach enough scale, like this will win, right? This will produce more energy than the existing system because there's less friction to onboard, get the capital you need to make that discovery, and that discovery be valuable, right? So just over time, like very, very, at its core, this will win eventually.
Yeah, and that for that roundtable, great talk there. We have another roundtable coming up here with one of Rapamycin Longevity Labs scientific lead, Camille Pavis from National University of Singapore, and we have also Alberto Parras, who is the founder of Vivo Architects. This is a little bit, this has not been yet announced, but Parras will join Rapamycin Longevity Lab as a scientific advisor, and his specialty is mice studies and partial reprogramming. And then we also have Girish Harinath, who is clinical and scientific advisor at Rapamycin Longevity Lab and works as the scientific communicator at Ageless RX. But Parras, if we look at the partial reprogramming, could you explain a little bit for the audience who are not so familiar with what partial reprogramming is, what it is?
Yeah. Hello, Christian. So the thing that I think that for reprogramming, we have to come back in the past, that this was discovered almost 20 years ago, that it was a Nobel Prize, that the adult cells can be reprogrammed to the stem cell, where a differentiated cell to the original state. And something that was discovered later is like during this process, the first thing that happens is a rejuvenation, or one of the things that happens is a rejuvenation of the cells. So this is what we call partial reprogramming. So in this step, we can rejuvenate cells. This was demonstrated then in vivo, and I was lucky because I joined to the lab of Alejandro Campos. He was the first one to demonstrate that in vivo reprogramming in mice can extend lifespan in a disease model of aging. And then we were doing genetic reprogramming in these mice. We realized that this was that we had to control it. I have a lot of power to rejuvenate, but we had to control it, that we were very far away of that. And this was in the moment that it was created the chemical reprogramming as well, to do the partial reprogramming, but not genetically, also with a small molecule. And I think that this is in the moment that we have a very high potential with partial reprogramming, with the genetic for sure, but also with the chemical. You are mute, Christer.
Camille, do you have any thoughts on partial reprogramming?
Oh, yeah, I think it's very cool. Recently, the science has very much matured. I was impressed by some of the data that I've seen. So people showing lifespan extension in mice, like really using gold standard, super healthy mice. And I think reprogramming is ready to take the next steps, and looking forward to it.
Yeah. And when it comes, then we also have one other pathway, which is totally different from partial reprogramming, and it's about the mTOR inhibition pathway. I know, Camille, you have done some research around that pathway. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, maybe just very briefly for the viewers who don't know. So the mTOR pathway inside the cell, it coordinates sort of how the cell utilizes available nutrients and how it uses it for cellular functions. Because in the wild, nutrients are often very limiting. And so the cell has to decide what to do. And apparently it turns out during starvation conditions, the cell enters a mode that is more associated with repair. This can induce, for example, autophagy or decreased translation of harmful proteins. And it has been shown that, entering this mode is very beneficial. And if you suppress the mTOR pathway, you turn on the starvation mode, right? And this can lead to lifespan extension in all kinds of model organisms, from C. elegans over flies to mice. And it has sort of become the gold standard in the field. So we use different mTOR inhibitors to extend lifespan. And rapamycin is one of the canonical ones that is now entering slowly human trials. And there are perhaps more potent ones, like this omipalisib, for example.
Yeah.
And Camille, what do you think about the conservation between the species? No, that if something works in a small organism, then they can work in humans, for instance.
Yeah, I found this very surprising about the mTOR pathway, just how conserved it is. It doesn't always work under all conditions, because there's no therapy in the world that will literally work in every organism. It can be still very strain and species specific, but if you look at the totality of the evidence, it's like really the best thing we have, and it has been validated in so many mouse strains and so many worm and fly strains. It's very impressive.
Yeah. And the thing here is that later this week on Wednesday, we will combine partial reprogramming with, for example, rapamycin, and on Friday, we will combine the partial reprogramming with the omipalisib compound. But today the goal is to launch the partial reprogramming intervention. So the guys are working in the background to get that solved. Girish, do you have any thoughts on why it may be interesting to combine, for example, partial reprogramming with mTOR inhibition?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really interesting approach, and there's these little, literature nodes that have lit up in the past couple of years, suggesting that using mTOR inhibitors alongside cellular reprogramming factors actually enhance the efficacy of reprogramming. And this could be for several reasons, right? mTOR inhibitors seem to push the cell into a deeper state of autophagy. And so by being able to, more deeply clean the cell, damage accumulation within the cell during the reprogramming process could be one way in which it enhances the effectiveness. The other thing is one of the major concerns on the radar with any type of reprogramming, whether you're talking about the Yamanaka factors, where you're taking a aged cell, aged skin cell, and turning it into a pluripotent stem cell, or whether you're talking about partial reprogramming, is there's this chance of pushing developmental genes too far, in which you get uncontrolled replication, and this can cause things like teratomas. Teratomas are these nasty creatures that are just like tumors that arise that sometimes have like teeth and skin cells, and they express all types of cell types within the given tumor. So with mTOR inhibitors, they're conventionally used as cancer therapeutic agents because they're effective at kind of putting the brakes on cellular replication. So somehow having this balancing act between mTOR inhibitors and these reprogramming factors that push the cell more towards developmental gene expressions is showing some really interesting effectiveness, at least within the lab. So it's super exciting to be able to explore the possibilities here of how these interventions may synergize, because even at this stage, cellular reprogramming isn't like a magic bullet. Yes, it's been shown to partially restore vision in mice. It's been shown like undoubtedly to rejuvenate cells on a single cell level, and even improvements in kidney function and cardiac function, but it doesn't do everything, right? Aging is this enmeshed network of molecular pathways that are going awry. So I think that's where these really strategic combinatorial approaches hold a lot of potential for optimizing outcomes. So super interested to see how we can really push that research forward and optimize results during that process.
I have some good news. I think the T-Rex is live. Can we verify that? Yes, it's live.
Yes, 12 times the charm.
Awesome.
Great to finally. But let's go over to Nathan Cheng. I know when I met Nathan, I think it was 2 years ago, I talked about the rapamycin, and he was like, you need to think bigger than this. You cannot just focus on extended lifespan with some few years. Come and visit LBF and we will take you to the next level. And that I'm super grateful that I did. And Nathan, can you present what the LBF is and why it's important to solve aging and taking things to the next level?
Yeah, thanks, Christer. And thanks to the Pump.science team for organizing as well. I'm just going to share some slides. Hopefully this works. How are we doing? Okay, we good? Good, yeah, okay, great. So I'm just going to present a little bit about the LBF and some of the work that we're doing at Longevity Biotech Fellowship. Just briefly, I'm Nathan Cheng, director of the LBF, also general partner at Healthspan Capital and co-founder at Vitalism. But anyways, specifically, I'm going to talk about the LBF roadmap. And this roadmap is basically a foundational project at LBF to help newcomers to the longevity space, especially those who are aligned on the mission of solving aging, living indefinitely, etc. I can only do a quick kind of like overview now, but if you want to see the whole thing, you can check it out on our website over here at the QR code or at longbiofellowship.org. Okay, so basically, the LBF is a nonprofit that I co-founded with Mark Hämäläinen, and we run this program designed to mobilize the world's top talent to work on solving aging. And you might ask, why work on aging? And fundamentally, for me, it's because life is good, it's awesome, and conversely, death is bad, it sucks. I think this is something that we all intuitively understand. And if you believe that, you might ask, okay, what is the thing that kills most people? Well, by far, it's aging, right? So 75% of deaths worldwide are caused by aging. And this basically comes in the form of things like age-related diseases, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and if you take anything away from this presentation, I think it's really that this is an emergency. Aging is an emergency. All 8 billion humans today are on this exponential trajectory towards physical and cognitive decline and ultimately death. So things are not fine, but if we can solve aging, biological aging, we could envision a future where people can live as long as they want in peak function and peak health. So where's the plan to solve aging? When we started LBF, we actually found we couldn't find a clear plan to solve aging. Nobody had published this or anything. So we had to make one of our own. And we wanted the plan to have 3 main components. So one, it needed to have a focus on direct research and technology that would solve aging and allow for indefinite lifespan. So, the end solution, not just some interim solution. Okay, and then it had to be very specific. So we wanted to know what were like the key technical milestones that would enable indefinite lifespan. And then of these different pathways or different technologies, we wanted to sort of elucidate and enumerate the different types of projects and highlight who's working on what, but also how you could potentially join or support those projects. So we asked a bunch of people in our network, in the community, and in the industry, what they thought were the ways to plausibly extend lifespan indefinitely. And basically, we came up with 3 pathways. So they're over here, and the first one is essentially biostasis, and that's preservation of bodies or brains after legal death. And this is typically done through cryopreservation at low temperature or chemical fixation. And then the second path was replacement. And for us, that really means replacement of old parts with young, and maybe more specifically, whole body replacement or whole organ system replacement, and in addition, gradual brain replacement. And then the last one is advanced bioengineering. This is the hardest one. And basically, there you're trying to understand and manipulate biology at the fundamental level, whether that's molecular or cellular. And this would mostly come in the form of things like advanced gene therapies or cell therapies. Okay, and
Nathan,
yeah,
quick question. Sorry, I guess I'm just curious. Like, amongst who you would consider experts in the field, where are people placing their bets? Is it like we don't have time to pick favorites, we have to throw the kitchen sink at it? Or is there would you say are there authority figures who believe one is going to win out here?
Well, yeah, it's very biased depending on where people are working, right? So if you talk to people who are working on replacement, like Sean Hebert at ARPA-H, he'll say like this is the way, the fundamental way, or maybe the only way. But if you talk about just like number of projects or even let's say dollars, capital allocation, obviously most of it's going into bioengineering, which in like more primitive forms you could think of it as encompassing also like pharma, right? Like you're developing chemicals to target certain proteins or whatever. And there's a lot of interest in developing new modalities for all sorts of diseases too, not just like things that are age related. And then obviously on top of that, there's the whole interest in the intersection with AI and bio, with whether that's like models like AlphaFolds and different like protein engineering or virtual cells. So that would fall more into the advanced bioengineering category. But I would say biostasis is definitely the one that seems the most underfunded right now. Yeah. Okay. Great question. Yeah. So moving along. Maybe it's good to put these 3 different pathways into kind of like this mental model, a 2x2. And really, you can think about it as whether you're trying to understand aging at its fundamental level or try to bypass it, right? Just like you don't need to understand it. Or you're either trying to solve aging completely or buy some extra time, right? And advanced bioengineering is the hardest of the two of the 3 because you're trying to do everything, understand aging, whether that's using like computation models or just like a fundamental understanding and trying to solve it. Whereas maybe bypassing aging it's a little bit easier. With replacement, you don't actually need to know how things break down. You just replace, an old part with a young. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly talk about some of these pathways. So, biostasis, the strategy here really is to pause biological time until technologies in the future can solve aging. And there's a number of key objectives that we highlighted in the roadmap. I think of the ones that are really important, I think optimized cryoprotectance would enable some better progress in the field in terms of allowing preservation times to be, well, at least you could revive or you could bring things back up to normal temperature if you're rewarming, slower if you could produce cryoprotectants that were less toxic, essentially. And then the other thing that's really important is rewarming uniformly. So to do this, you have to be able to, essentially deliver energy or heat to a sample or an organ or entire body without causing thermal gradients, which might actually produce cracking, and that would be bad. Okay, so there's a number of projects in this space. Most recently and most in the news was Until Labs. So Laura Deming raised, I think, around $50 million for a Series A led by Founders Fund for a company that's working on reversible cryopreservation technology. And there's a bunch of other players in the space as well. So interesting and super underfunded direction. But let's talk about replacement quickly. So what we want to do here is replace old parts with young. And for us, that kind of breaks up into two main strategies. Okay, so for one, if we're dealing with the body, one way that you could do that is replace the body with a cloned body with that has the brain or the conscious forming parts of the brain knocked out. And then the second part, okay, then how do you actually address aging in the brain? Well, you could replace the brain gradually with young neural tissue grafts. And because the brain is, plastic and there's neuroplasticity, it can accommodate these changes. Okay, so let's talk about the body first. So this really only became kind of feasible within a few years ago, like in 2018. Chinese scientists demonstrated the first cloning of primates, and it's plausible that you could extend that cloning technique to humans as well. So it's possible to create a cloned body, but we don't want to create also a brain at the same time, because that would be all sorts of ethical issues there. So you'd have to create some sort of genetic construct to knock out the capacity for consciousness to develop in that cloned body. And you might think that sounds like science fiction, but actually there's already a natural proof of concept. There's a birth defect called hydranencephaly, where parts of the cerebral cortex don't form, and these bodies can develop to maturity even though they don't have the conscious forming parts of the brain. Okay, so then the last part is, okay, you might need to perform some sort of head transplant. And this sounds like also sci-fi, but actually in the past, early transplant pioneers have done this in mice, dogs, monkeys with survivals in days, sometimes weeks, and so forth. Okay, so that's a replacement, whole body replacement. But the hardest part is actually the brain. So the brain could be, in theory, gradually replaced by engineering grafts made from a patient's own iPSC cells, stem cells, essentially. And because the brain is has neuroplasticity, the functions that need to be essentially migrated could be moved to these new young neural tissue grafts. Okay, and if it's done slowly, essentially. Okay, and the big news there is, the U.S. agency ARPA-H, which is kind of like the DARPA for biomedical moonshots, hired Jean Hebert, who was the leading researcher on a gradual brain replacement, to lead maybe $100 million plus moonshot program in brain replacement, and they announced it just a couple months ago, and teams have been applying, which is really great. And of course, there's a number of different objectives, milestones in brain replacement and whole body replacement. I think obviously the brain is much harder. I think the whole body replacement stuff is actually seems very straightforward. And there's a number of projects, startups working in brain replacement or other parts of replacement that you can check out as well. And more interestingly, we asked researchers and founders working in this space to kind of like estimate what it would cost to do like a decent like proof of concept across this whole replacement strategy. And we got like a number of like something like $3.6 billion. So this is like a drop in the bucket compared to what's spent in pharma and maybe even bioengineering. Okay, so let's talk about bioengineering really quickly. It's the last path in our roadmap and definitely the hardest. As I said before, you have to basically gain full engineering control of biology and understand it. And the understanding could come from data modeling, all this interest in AI. I think that's going to play a major part in the story, and especially like Chen Zuckerberg initiative. They're making this major pivot to AI and bio. But then obviously there's modeling, there's designing of interventions, and delivery is also an outstanding issue, especially if you're talking about advanced genetic engineering. Okay, so next steps. Suppose you want to get involved in solving aging. Then I think, the next logical step is to join the LBF if you're interested. We're a community of entrepreneurs, engineers, scientists, and investors, and we're laser focused on building for indefinite lifespan. So if that mission resonates with you, definitely check us out. We have 500 plus members. We've done 7 cohort programs already. And basically our cohort program is this kind of boot camp where we run a highly selective, intensive workshop retreat to get newcomers up to speed on the space, but also connect with other people who could be, mission-aligned collaborators. And then we've also expanded the program to a 7-day format where we do like a project sprint, kind of like a hackathon at the end. So we just finished up the 7th cohort back in Spain, like just last month. So that's my presentation. If you're interested in getting involved in fighting aging, you don't need to be a biologist or a scientist. We're looking for all types of people who have different expertise and skills. You can check us out at longbiofellowship.org or scan this QR code. Thanks.
Yeah, super great presentation there, Nathan. And I can highly recommend to go to one of these hardcore schools of taking things to the next level. You'll and I think one thing here, just to point out also, you don't need to be a researcher or to join these camps. It's a multidisciplinary approach, and we were those people who join these camps. They want to do something around this topic. So big thanks for driving this forward. We also have Anar from Ageless RX.
I was going to say real quick, speaking of next level, Christer, do you guys want to pull up the token progress so far? I think it'd be good to show the community how things have been going to see if...
can you share your screen there, Gillian?
Let me see. Oh, dear.
I don't think Anar is here, Girishore.
Yeah, he was having some trouble logging in. He's on the go, and there's a snowstorm in Chicago. But if we see him in here, we'll pull it up. We'll pull him up.
Yes, but let's take a look at the token. How are things going?
Yeah, let me see my.
It's By the way, Nathan, when do you plan to do the next LBF camp?
Yes, good question. That will be spring 2026, and it will likely be in the Bay Area, San Francisco. But for people who are more, it's more convenient for them to travel to Europe or whatever, we'll probably do LBF 9, the one after that one, in Europe in let's say late summer, maybe early fall. Yeah.
Nice. Great. Yeah. Okay. What are we seeing here, Julian? Can you explain?
Yeah, so on the Pump Science site, when a compound launches, what you'll see is the compound token page. So here you can see this is the T-Rex token. Here's the contract address. So we've had some people ask for the CA. If the CA that just launched is legit, this is the CA for the T-Rex token. So you find it right at the top of the site. You can see some key stats on the token launch. So you can see a 17.4K market cap. There are 47 holders, and it so far has done 25K in trading volume. Down here, so we look at the funding progress. One thing that's really, for the people who are really interested in the funding progress in terms of the science that has been funded, what is so cool to see, and when we talk about levels, so the worm experiments have been funded, and we have successfully funded fly experiments as well. So
Yeah.
this compound is on its way, well on its way.
So I think within 20 minutes, we have both funded worm experiment and fly experiment. So I think within 1 or 2 days, the mice experiments will also be funded. And the very interesting approach that Pump Science is using is to the fees, transaction fees, is funding the research that is done, and that approach is a super interesting way of designing things.
Yeah, and
So-
what's really cool is what
Yeah.
you can see here at the bottom is all of the latest trades. So people buying and selling the token. So in the last 55 seconds, there's been a buy on the T-Rex token. So really cool. As Krister mentioned, trading fees go to funding the research. So yeah, it'll be cool to see how many fees, how long it'll take to ultimately get to mice experiments. And Benji, how often is the funding progress updated?
I think it's every minute. But yeah, I mean, like, look, this is the hyper financialized future, right? Where every single compound is tokenized. And yeah, no, like a lot of people who saw the way we were designing this were like, no, don't use trading fees to fund everything. Like, it will never work. Well, I mean, I'd love to hear from you, Camille. Like, was that easier or harder than getting a grant funded?
Don't try to get a grant funded. You'll grow old during that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, we think this model's incredibly promising. Of course, like it definitely fluctuates based on how active traders are, you know, based on market conditions. But nonetheless, you know, the trenches are always hot and people want to trade. And yeah, like the funding, the transaction fees have proven to be a very interesting model. I think additionally, it's like, you know, I think that Nathan mentioned Laura Deming's new startup that got like $50 million in funding from a VC fund recently. And like, that is kind of the historical way of getting projects funded, which is, you know, I wanted, you know, work on this for 3 years. And then the VC fund, you know, pours you $50 million. So you work on it for 3 years. What we find very interesting about this model is how capital efficient it is. So, you know, basically what the market's kind of saying here is, you know, we're willing to fund you up to flies, but beyond that, we want to see more data, right? In order to determine whether or not this compound deserves to kind of like move on, right? And so it's incredibly capital efficient way to get projects funded, you know. You get funding for what you need, but not more than what you need. right? And so, if this compound, happens to do extremely well in both worms and flies, maybe the market will decide, okay, maybe we should, trade this token more, and maybe it's worth going into mice. But at this point, this is what you get. And so I think it's a very interesting way to kind of like read the market and listen to what it's telling you. And what it's saying is, this is interesting enough to test, but not interesting enough to, take it all the way to mice right now.
Yeah. And the interesting thing also that pump.science has done is to create the infrastructure research pipeline. So you have partnered with great companies around worm experiments, fly experiments, mice experiments, and also different companies around human clinical trials also. Can you talk about that, Benji?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the compounds, not necessarily the products, but the compounds such as the ones that were submitted here. The first experiment is to test on lifespan on C. elegans. And so for that, we have a lab that we work with. It's Matt Kaberlein's company. It's called Aura Biomedical. It's based in Seattle. And they do lifespan testing on C. elegans. They have a highly automated system to do it. They've been incredible to work with. We have a great deal with them. And so we are trying to bring that deal to the masses. And so that's kind of what you have access to here through pump.science. And then for flies, we work with an incredible lab based out of Switzerland called Juvian Health Sciences. They're not a contract research lab. They're actually like a health and wellness biotech company, like a longevity biotech company. And but they have all of these flies and all this fly infrastructure to test, do lifespan testing and mobility testing on flies. And so we work with them for the fly lab. So as our fly lab. So, we could, because there's enough funding here, we could go and have them initiate a fly experiment as well. And should this token get enough funding, then it will go to the final boss, which is Paras, who is running the mouse studies. And there it can go through performance testing, dose discovery testing, and potentially longevity testing as well, where we will test it basically until the funding runs out. So so long as the token keeps trading, we'll keep dosing the mice, and hopefully get them to end of life so we can have a full lifespan test done. But this is kind of the idea with this, is like we're trying to do as much science as we can in the most capital efficient way possible. And yeah, like this is our system to do it.
Yeah. And the thing here is not to stop in preclinical studies. We want to get these interventions also, tested in humans in one or the other way, or create the different products. I know, for example, the Raptor, they are going to create a company around their token. So this pump.science is a little bit like a pre-seed for funding the research to take the next step. So yeah, super great work with everything there. So
totally. And so yeah, like our goal is, of course, to take the top performing compounds and run human studies on them. And that goes for both products that are already on the market, as well as new products that could be developed, like Raptor, like T-Rex. You could foresee, if these compounds extend lifespan in all the various animals, we could hypothetically run a human study on them that's IRB approved, and that allows us to basically see whether this helps people as much as it helps animals, or whether it provides any clinical utility to people. So definitely very excited about that. That will definitely be like attention grabbing. I've already told the Raptor team, like, if it extends the lifespan on the mice, like, I'll take it myself. So, I think what was interesting yesterday about, I don't know how much you guys followed like Brian Johnson's trip, but like everyone was really locked in on it. I would say on Twitter, it was the event of the day on Twitter, and people were very closely following like his trip. And to his credit, he wouldn't live stream the entire experience, But I think what you could imagine is like, okay, we discover some really interesting longevity cocktail. It's time for people to take it. Now we go on Twitter and just live stream the whole thing, all of our vitals, you know, all of our wearables, everything, and make an actual spectacle out of it. So really excited by that. I think it can bring a lot of attention and funding to the longevity space. And yeah, that I would say like that's going to be a cool moment when we do that. Not if, but when.
Yeah, lots of great things happening, and yeah, looking forward also to centralize all the different self-experiment data in some type of centralized database. Or so yeah. I think we are rounding up here. It has been, it was a little bit problems in the beginning, but the important thing here is to never give up and just keep pushing. And yeah, massive thanks to all speakers and for all supporters out there. And on Wednesday, we'll do our second launch, where we combine partial reprogramming with the mTOR inhibitor rapamycin. And on Friday, we will do our third launch, where we combine partial reprogramming with the omipalisib. So yeah, follow Rapamycin Longevity Lab and yeah, pump.science, Nathan Chang, and all the other people on this call. And yeah, let's keep pushing this field forward and push the boundaries of human and longevity together. Thank you.
Go.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Bye-bye.